जय हिंद दोस्तों, मैं हूं मेजर मोहम्मद अली शाह और आज मेरा बहुत बड़ा सौभाग्य है कि मैं गुफ्तगू में होऊंगा एक ऐसी शख्सियत के साथ एक जो किसी भी तारुफ के मोहताज नहीं है, जो 71 में हमारे हमारे लिए जंग लड़े थे और इनको बड़े बहादुरी से जंग लड़े थे। इनको महावीर चक्र से नवाजा गया था, इनको नौसेना मेडल से भी नवाजा गया है। इनका इलस्ट्रियस करियर रहा है नेवी में। ये रेयर एडमिरल की रैंक से रिटायर हुए थे और ये इनकी परवरिश, इनकी तालीम हुई थी दुनिया के, मैं तो कहूंगा कि हिंदुस्तान ही नहीं, दुनिया के सबसे अव्वल बेहतरीन स्कूल से, दून स्कूल, जहां का एंट्रेंस टेस्ट में मैं फेल हो गया था, मगर मैं कहूंगा कि मैं उससे बेहतर स्कूल में गया सर। Pardon me for saying that, sir. I went to Lawrence School, Lovedale, as a tie that I am wearing.
I see.
Sir, thank you very much for spending time for us, sir, and I'm really truly grateful, sir, and honored, sir, to be here in conversation with you, sir.
No, my pleasure. Yeah.
Sir, first tell us a bit about your experience at the Doon School, sir. Growing up in a boarding school, one of the best public schools in the country. How was it like, sir?
Oh, it was something I very fondly remember. I was there for 5 years, from 1948 to December 52. I did my senior Cambridge from there. And I relished my entire 5 years there, made lots of friends, lifetime friends. And I did revisit the school a month ago when I was in Dehradun, and I find big changes there from the time that I was there, but all for the better. And there are many, many more facilities, and there's a lot more money to spend there. When I joined, the school was only about 13 years old. So at that time, it was just a starting point for the school, really. But I'm very happy to see that the old boys contribute a lot to the school. And I think they are the backbone of the school even today.
Sir, but before that, I'm so sorry it slipped my mind to wish you a very happy Naval Day. In fact, today is 4th of December.
That's right.
What a great day to be in conversation with a legend. Sir, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you, sir. So then tell me, after Doon School, when you joined the academy, because you came from Doon School, and I know the boarding school culture, and it is almost the same in academy: early morning PT, then classes, evening games, evening study time. It's more or less almost the same. So you may not have had any problem during your training days coming from Doon School, sir.
You're absolutely right. There was just no problem joining the Joint Services Wing at that time. And it seemed to be a natural fit into that environment.
Sir.
Unlike most people in my course who were so new to the whole game, that I had a distinct advantage right from the start. And in fact, I never looked at it that way. It was an instant liking for the place.
Sir, and were you always ambitious to be an aviator? Why did you always aspire to be an aviator, or it was something in the due course in academy that you chose to go in for aviation, sir?
No, frankly, it was a thing that I chose off the cuff as I joined the NDA. And it so happened that Mountbatten had come for one of our parades. And I think he and our Prime Minister then, Jawaharlal Nehru, were great friends. And I think we were sold the carrier. That was 1957 or 56. And so they asked for volunteers when I was a cadet in the ship in 1957, and we were all seasick. And we all put up our hands for naval aviation because we just couldn't stand the seasickness. But so happened, out of 29 of us, only 6 got parents' permission to join aviation, and I was one of those. Not 6, but 9 of us. The biggest course. And Vikrant was in the making, being modified in Belfast in UK, and I think they had a 5 years lead program or 3 years lead program. Yeah. So that is how. But let me tell you that my father was a very keen pilot himself. He owned 2 aeroplanes, and he did all his flying in training in Lahore. And he took part in the race from UK to Bombay with JRD Tata. And about the same time, I don't know if he was with him or not, but he got a huge trophy. He joined the race in Baghdad. And from Baghdad came to Karachi to Bombay. and in that he came first. I don't know whether GRD was involved in that, or maybe GRD was the year before him. So I just know that because we had the trophy at home, his trophy,
So,
yeah. But otherwise,
so
that was the only link with aviation. But that had nothing to do with my joining. It was more for getting out of the ship, being seasick, really.
So you have seen, you have been part of the forces before the partition and after the partition as well. So, like for example, sir, we had the British in Indian Army, and after 1948, for example, I'll tell you, sir, like when Air Marshal Cariappa, sir, in 1965, when he was taken as prisoner of war to Pakistan, General Ayub Khan, the president of Pakistan at that time, when he got to know that he was Field Marshal Cariappa's son, he had served under Field Marshal Cariappa when before the partition, when it was British Indian Army, and he obviously had very high regard for him. So he sent a message to his father saying that your son is the prisoner of war with us, and we would like to release him. And that time, Field Marshal Cariappa, that time General Cariappa said, "All Indians are my sons. Please look after them well." And he would be treated at par with any other prisoner of war over there. So, because General Ayub Khan had served under General Cariappa before the partition, when it was won. So, what different did you find, sir, before the partition and after the partition, which when it was one combined? Another example I'll quote, sir, quickly, where 13 Lancers and 17 Pune Horse in 1971, Second Lieutenant Arun Khitripal, Paramveer Chakra, they were facing each other, which was part of one family before the partition. So, what different did you find, sir, before the partition in the forces and after the partition?
No, Ali, I was never. I only joined JSC.
Sorry, you were commissioned in. Sorry. Yes.
I commissioned only in 57.
If I'm not mistaken, sir.
But all I can say, I mean, I don't have the experience of being there with the armed forces before the war, excepting I do remember that I got vacancy in the Noon School. One of the reasons being that the Pakistani boys, people who want to migrate to Pakistan went away, and there was a lot of vacancy created. Otherwise, I had to wait 1 year. But for that reason, my father had to change my date of birth, made me 1 year older. And although I was only 10 years old, I joined school as an 11-year-old. And I didn't know this till about 3-4 years ago. All this time, I've been competing with people 1 year or more older than me all along.
Oh, you got to know recently? Just about 3-4 years back, you got to know this.
Yes, I didn't even know because I saw when I went to Doon School and I looked at the records and I got the entrance certificate. Then I realized my father had made it 1936 December. It was actually 1937.
Oh,
so all along in the NDA and in Doon School, I competed with people who were older than me all along. I didn't know that.
sir, please permit me for saying this, though I am sorry I might embarrass you slightly, but I'd have to say this, sir. If your age was rightly mentioned, we would have had the first Mahavir Chakra chief of naval staff then, sir.
No, I don't think that I don't believe that. But it would have been a big advantage to have been a year senior. And actually, I joined the 8th course. I applied for the 8th course and got rejected there permanently for trachoma, a new disease, eye disease they found. And 90% of the North Indians have that problem. But that over the years, they disregarded it. But I got rejected on the 8th course. I missed my 9th course, having done the senior Cambridge school. And then I joined after 6 months hanging around after senior Cambridge and joined 10th course. So yes, there would have been an advantage. That would have been in the 8th course or 7th course. Quite right. In that context, yes. I would have, age-wise, I would have fitted in very well.
Yes, sir.
But I'm not.
Sir.
But it's a question of luck also. Vacancies, and you got to perform really well. Maybe I may not have joined aviation if I joined the 7th course or 8th course.
Yes, sir. So let's come
all's
to
all's well that ends well, really.
Yes, sir. So let's come to 1971, sir. So you were on board the ship Virat, and when you were leading an air squadron, you were leading you were leading an air squadron, and that's a time when your plane was hit, in fact. And so completely, though I know it's very difficult at times to talk about yourself, but I would urge you, sir, if you could just share that experience with us, because it will really help motivate a lot of youngsters, sir, with your story. Your aircraft was hit despite being totally unmindful of your own personal safety. You went beyond the call of duty, sir, I would say, and you went on continuing passing orders and continued destroying the enemy from there. And then you got back. What is the bigger achievement than that is you got back your entire squadron back to safety wholeheartedly, sir. Could you share a bit about on that with us, sir?
Yes, indeed. It was the INS Vikrant, not Virat.
I'm so sorry,
Vikrant,
sir.
yeah, and I was commanding the fighter squadron, 300 White Tiger Squadron, we called it. One of the two squadrons on board the ship. And I happened to have taken command of it a year earlier, actually. This was January 1970. It was the second year of my command that the Vikrant sailed out. And the ship was a limping ship, not ready for war. Nor was my squadron ready for war. I neither had the enough aircraft, neither did I have experienced pilots. And the ship itself had the new crew, which had unworked up, and also the ship itself had many major defects, which limited her speeds. So we were easy meat for the enemy submarines. At the same time, the ship was unfit for operating aircraft. We broke all rules over the period of time, and we got the blessings of Chief of Naval Staff to go ahead and he ordered from our ship only that naval headquarters is to clear the aircraft to land and take off. So that was the background, and 6 months we hung around at sea in secrecy, and we trained gradually, and with the ship trained and the ship's crew trained, as well as I got my old pilots back one after another, and we were in the end 15 pilots, and we had 20 aeroplanes. From starting with, we had only one or two before, because of the foreign exchange component not being free for us. At the same time, the aircraft had stopped their manufacture in 1961. So you can imagine. So now that was the background. But you mentioned about my leading the squadron. Yes, I was fortunate to be in the right place, and I had by now I had all the experienced pilots back who I knew personally very well, and they knew me, and we fitted in very beautifully, despite the very strong challenges to coming back to Vikrant, because the ship was operating at minimum speeds, and the aircraft required certain minimum speed too. So we just about managed because of the experience of the pilots. And by then, the ship also had worked up well. The engineers on board, everything went out so beautifully, including my own air engineer officer who produced 20 out of 20 airplanes every day of the war. Now with that background, and when I took off on the 9th, yes, my aircraft was hit whilst we were attacking Chittagong airport. And there was a battery of 54 guns around the airport, and they were all firing at us. And they hit my aircraft, the lead aircraft. And it just so happened I was in the middle of the dive. I managed to release the bombs. And then I had to reduce my speed from 450 knots to 250 knots to regain control of the aircraft, because hydraulics had all leaked out by the hit. But it was nothing extraordinary about that, excepting that it came naturally to me to continue and help my two divisions at the back, 7 aircraft, to accomplish the aim. And then we joined up at the rendezvous position, and I brought them all back. It so happened that this is only one of the instances. There are many of us who were hit, and a couple of instances, their windshields were shattered and they could not see ahead of them, and yet they had to come back to land on the ship. This could only be done by experienced pilots who brought in the casualties and brought them safely on board and talked them down. So it was, many of us were hit. I was only one of them. All I can say is that I was complete control of the formations at every stage, because I had enough experience. I've been flying this aircraft for 10 years, and I've already had 450 deck landings to my credit, so more than anybody else would have. So I think it came naturally to me that all the actions that I took were indeed all part of my training, as also all the aircrew, all the pilots were sufficiently well trained to accept emergencies, and even to take over the lead if required anytime. So it was I would say the training was very good, and we were prepared for all eventualities. My instance of my aircraft getting hit is only one incident. There were many more incidents that I experienced which were far more dangerous, where the ship was not ready and we all had to abandon aircraft, bail out, eject. Then the ship got ready just on time. Then we made it the last drop of fuel. And another time the radars failed. They couldn't pick us up. We came back on our own. So there were many instances like that. But those stories are never told because nobody thinks of these things. But really, it was the biggest challenge of all was really getting the ship and the squadron operational those 5-6 months before the event. That was a much, much bigger challenge than the war itself. But now that you mentioned it, I want to tell you that when I had the opportunity to land after the liberation, the next morning in a helicopter armed with escorts, I visited all the places we attacked. And now I was now in full knowledge of what happens when you drop a bomb or rockets or your front guns or different types of heads of rockets. So we've learned a lot from that war in the sense we knew what damage creates and what sort of targets that they are. But I'm happy to say not a single civilian was killed in all our attacks. About all 300 sorties were flown by between the both squadrons, and many of the enemy's targets were destroyed, including enemy soldiers. But not a single civilian in Bangladesh died because of us. So the fighting was very accurate.
Sir, and you were flying Seahawk, if I'm not mistaken, sir.
Yes, Seahawks aircraft. They were stopped manufactured in 1961, and so we had all Seahawks that the world could get us. I think in the end we bought about 75 Seahawks from all over the world, and we maintained them very well. But the problem was the spares were running out, and even by mothballing and by what they call taking away spare parts from other aircraft, we could not produce more than 3 aircraft at the commencement, let's say in August. And by end October, we were ready with 15 aircraft and 20 aircraft and 15 pilots. That was quite a creditable thing, really. And with the minimum refamiliarization, because in all those 5 months, we had only 25 flying days. So that is a much bigger achievement, really.
Of course.
How everything was produced at the right time. And during the war, we could do nothing wrong. Luck was on our side. Although we got hit, but we all came back, and those aircraft were repaired overnight, and we were ready next morning. And the ground crew was so attached to the aircraft that they would sleep under the aircraft and not go down to the mess decks. That was the sort of a spirit in which the ship went into war.
So day before last night evening, in fact, this NDTV's program where they were honoring legends. The program's name itself was Legend, sponsored by 100 Pipers, and in fact, we were like really awe-inspired by what you spoke on stage. We were all looking at you with our jaws hanging, and we were like so inspired. I literally got goosebumps, sir, hearing your story. Sir, I would also like to know, I know your hand also might be getting tired. I'm so sorry. But before we let you go, sir, I would like to know about when you got the Nausena medal, sir, because was it before the 71 war or after that 71 war, sir?
Yeah, in 1966, I had an incident on board Vikrant where the ship had come out of a long refit. And when that happens, all the equipment is tested at sea. Similarly, the Seahawks I was flying the Seahawks during the test trials. And in the trials, I think we were off Goa, about 50 miles away from Goa. And when I landed, a normal landing, my hook engaged the wire, and then the wire parted. Not because of the engagement so much as cylinder got locked, the hydraulic cylinder in the ship, and that came off from the joint and drove around my aircraft hook and sheared it off. So now that was the incident in which normal tendency would have been to eject, because the aircraft didn't have enough flying speed. The sudden retardation had taken place on the deck after engagement of the wire. But it so happened that when I rolled off the deck, uh, I thought I would eject. So my hands went for ejection. Then I found that aircraft was still under control. And as before I could descend the 30 feet, 34 feet onto the water, the aircraft picked up speed. And and both the aircraft and myself were then diverted to Goa, where they found that the hook assembly had all parted, and the ship went back to maintenance to check what had gone wrong, and that was very lucky for me, I think, and so for that I was awarded a Nausena medal in 1968, 2 years later, a year and a half later, as a gallantry award. So that was in 66, what happened in 66, and the award in 68. The Maha Chakra came in 71 on my birthday. Would you believe that?
Wow, sir. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, just luck. Nothing could go wrong. Everything went by the book. Book in the sense that everything went so well, although you broke all rules. We broke all rules, and that's why it is surprising that all the limitation laid on the aircraft and the ship, we managed to keep it within limits despite the problems with the ship.
Sir.
That is a much bigger war than what really actually happened during the war.
Very true, sir. Very true. Sir, it's been such an honor and a pleasure to be in conversation with you, sir. That too on Navy Day. Can't get better. The way you said you got the Mahavir Chakra on your birthday, sir. What better can I be? What bigger honor can I have than being in conversation with Rear Admiral Santosh Kumar Gupta, Mahavir Chakra, Nausena Medal on Navy Day? That is very, very. So thank you very much for spending time for us, sir. And any last message you would like to give to young aspiring fighter pilots, sir?
Well, I think it's question of training, and you should be available. A pilot should be available. Individual must be available all the time, because if you miss out the opportunities, usually it happens when you give priority to some other things that go around you. But if your priority lies in being available for flying 24 hours of the day throughout your flying career, you will never miss an opportunity. Of course, this involves a lot of sacrifice from the family, and the family really comes to be number two after your squadron and your ship. That is the sort of a training that you have to have and give priority to what you have to, and it pays dividends. It pays dividends to me for just being available all the time, and my very understanding wife and family. Because during the war, my children were only 3 and 5 years old, respectively. And they were living in a farm with no news, no telephone, no letters for 5 months. So, but I knew I had their support, and I think that's what helps really. That your family must understand, at the same time, you must be available all the time. But you miss the opportunities, you don't know what opportunities come to you. Not that you're looking for opportunities, but surely for the sake of love of your profession.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. There are a lot of youngsters who are commenting over here, and I think they have really gained a lot of inspiration from you, sir. Sir, thank you very much. Really and sincerely grateful to you, sir, for taking your time, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. My pleasure and my privilege. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Thank you. Jai Hind.